This fall and winter, we, along with the rest of Canada and North America, experienced a surge of respiratory viral illness. This led to extraordinarily high volumes and acuity for our emergency department, inpatient units, and our intensive care unit.
The surge of respiratory illness really hit the hospital hard, particularly difficult for inpatient teams and for Emerge.
We saw our pediatric hospital medicine and PICU colleagues work extra hours and take on more shifts to support site capacity challenges.
People helping one another out, and we had to create a short stay unit. People came together, including our community pediatric colleagues, came into the hospital to really help manage what was an unprecedented wave of demand.
Our subspecialists admitted patients they normally wouldn't admit and saw as many patients as possible in their clinics to avoid them having to come to the emergency department. Our community pediatricians also worked long hours to keep patients out of the hospital.
It's a challenging time, but it was nice to see people come together to help one another.
The NICU family, they were willing to step outside their comfort zone. We are accepting babies from the Emerge who are older than our usual population, and same from the PICU. We wanted to vaccinate all babies in the NICU in anticipation that we might get babies with viral infection. We have extreme premature baby, very immunocompromised newborns, so we wanted to protect them. We had a case, it was from outside the Calgary zone, who needed a breathing machine, and NICU was the only intensive care for that patient. And we said, well, we have to take this patient even if it's viral infection. Sent the email, few minutes I got a phone call from the RSV coordinator. She said, how can we make this work? All babies in the NICU were vaccinated with RSV vaccine. Everybody in the NICU was vaccinated. It speaks to the passion, the dedication, the collegiality and the collaboration between different teams. You only need to convince them that something is good for the patient, and then the sky's the limit.
A highlight of the past year has been seeing our researchers and their teams succeed, with continued success in external funding and high-impact publications.
ACH is basically fully open for all research operations. Research staff are back on site working, research participants are coming to the hospital for visits. The whole aspect of patient engagement in research is something that's becoming more and more common, and we have more teams incorporating that in their studies from the very beginning. Researchers really become a part of that patient circle of care. Researchers build genuine connections with the research participants and their families. It makes research, that much more closely connected to the participants' experience.
The collaboration with families and people with lived experience has become a big focus to really help inform how research and treatment should move forward. Being able to be a part of helping some of these children take their first independent steps. These are parents of children. Some of them were told when their child was born that they may not walk. And so I feel so honored and privileged to be able to share those experiences with families.
If you envision your field of research in the next 10 to 20 years, what does it look like? And what do you need to be a leader in that type of work? Those are the kinds of conversations that we're having.
Our patients are children, so all the way from tiny premature newborns to 18-year-olds. And they have neurological conditions that are often acute and severe. On NCC, that often means just the worst kind of circumstances that you can imagine. And that's why they're in the pediatric or neonatal intensive care units.
In those contexts, we often meet families at their worst imaginable times. We have a talk to them about potentially the brain at risk and what does that mean or what could that mean. For pediatrics, everybody's recognized the importance of protecting the brain. The classical literature would say like 25 to 30% of all kids in an intensive care setting have brain at risk. They may not have come in with a direct injury to the brain, but because of something else, the brain is at risk for impact, and therefore that can impact their life. So in the beginning, it's really about saving the child's life and protecting the brain as much as possible. Once we get beyond that, now it's about what is the best life that child can have and how can we help. And from that perspective, the family's input is critical. ACH in general has a philosophy of family-centered care, and the focus on the family is there from the beginning.
We see the sickest patients in the ICU, but then we also get to follow them on their journey through the inpatient units, onto the outpatient side, and collaborate with all of the different areas and specialties along the way. Complex care teams and the rehab specialists as they move out of the ICU, and then everybody involved in the outpatient side.
That's really what neurocritical care is a focused effort and collaboration and multidisciplinary program, which we have growing evidence and lots of other reasons to believe really improves the acute care of such children and their families, and almost certainly improves their chances of having a good outcome.
We approach every patient by trying to understand the patient as a whole. Our goal is to protect the brain, but we also need to understand what's happening with the heart, with the GI system, with the respiratory system, with every other component of the child. As we built the neurocritical care program, the whole idea was to say we want to provide the best care. We're going to do that by making sure that we're inclusive of people's different roles because they provide different insights.
The forms that collaboration has taken as the program has grown have been steadily expanding and more impactful.
We've worked with the ICU, with both the pediatric and neonatal ICU, and then with the emergency department and with hospital peds to develop protocols that are accepted across all of them. What became very apparent very early was there are a lot of other players that have significant roles in a child's outcome. The more we pay attention to the journey and what families feel is beneficial and the things that make a difference, the more we realize how many people actually impact on that care. I can't think of anybody who works here who is not involved on some level with these kids. To provide the best care, we have to integrate the research we know. In the past, people have thought that research is something that's separate from care, where we're actually saying it is care. And care is improved by research being part of the way you think, but also care informs the next level of research. When kids come in and there's bad injuries, it's inspiring to say we're going to do everything we can, and if we don't know, we're going to actually try to figure it out.
Starting a follow-up clinic to help collect data for research studies and patient outcomes.
There are many of us that are seeing patients in follow-up, and so having that kind of a research study that allows us to all group the follow-ups together, that's a wonderful way of gathering all the patients that we see, and they're very diverse in their medical needs and concerns, and be able to follow our outcomes longitudinally.
It's becoming such a big project that's looking at all the people providing care and all the kids that we're seeing, and I think it's going to bring so much valuable data in the future about how we're doing and what we can do better, what supports these families really need.
And just work with other areas in order to help grow our research program in different trajectories so that we're not just relying on our skills as a group, but we can rely on skills from lots of people from other departments.
There's been a lot of highlights in the last year. It really points to the collaboration. It points to this unique set of people across a broad range of expertise. And so that when you come up with a really important clinical question, all the tools are around us to try to answer that question. It has the potential to make a really big, innovative change in how we approach some of our sickest patients.
We started a new simulation program for education, going over acute neurological emergencies with the residents. It's been really great bringing everyone in and getting them to be hands-on in these scenarios, helping them feel more comfortable and provide better patient care in these emergency situations.
We have two lines of services. One is the neurocritical care and one is the neonatal neurocritical care from the section of neonatology. We built this program together, and so it's perfectly complementary. This year we tried to standardize the training in neonatal neurocritical care, so we created this task force. We got it approved by the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada as an area of focus competency diploma.
That's a big deal because it's a national initiative. This is the extra step to have that as an accredited program through the Royal College, and so that brings that to that next level.
To carry on and continue his legacy, we're able to name the program after Dr. Harvey Sarnath. And Dr. Harvey Sarnath is legend in neonatal neurology. He invented the scoring system in 1976 that everybody today around the world is still using. So it's a Harvey Sarnath Neonatal Neurocritical Care Fellowship Program.
Someone who has done pediatrics and neonatology could apply to do more fellowship training in neonatal neurocritical care. And similarly, from the neurology side, one could apply and do that extra training. When fellows join us, we're able to tailor their educational needs for their future career goals. And so that's a wonderful advantage of the program as well.
Our goal is to have the first AFC diplomat graduate from Calgary in Canada.
It's really about the kids and the families. And it's knowing that we're setting the bar of what we can do for these kids and families, and it improves every year. And so the outcomes, kids saying hi to you, or you see them in the hall, or they're back to school when you're having difficult conversations about them even surviving. And then we're seeing those outcomes. And for us to be able to do this, to change practice across the board, to build a model where it's collaboration across all disciplines and all levels within the hospital and supported by everybody in the hospital is phenomenal. The ACH was the place to be able to do this.
A highlight of the past year is the accreditation of all of our pediatric training programs.
It's a massive, massive undertaking, and we did it all on the heels of the pandemic and on the heels of launching Competence by Design. July 2025 will be the first general pediatrics CBD graduate cohort. Definitely has changed the landscape in medical education for our department. Working with the trainees, honestly, it's so inspiring and motivating because they have so much enthusiasm, so much talent, so much energy, and they really are going to be the future of pediatrics. So having that opportunity to work with them, learn from them, and be able to impact their future is really quite inspirational. When there's redeployment call-outs or when people have to be juggled, they are honestly the doctors who have the skills to be anywhere because they are so flexible and so well trained, and so they can go to NICU and where they can go to PICU, they can go to the inpatient unit, they can go to the community clinics, they can redeploy to adult units. More recently, we've had some of the internal medicine and family medicine and other non-PEDS program residents redeployed to our department to help with the surge, which I think also again speaks to that willingness to help the community and go where there's need. The community of educators and the faculty we have really makes education special.
We used to travel to countries like India, China, Middle East, Latin America, and do workshops. The sonographic clinical assessment of the newborn. We managed to train more than 1,000 physicians around the world. And then the pandemic hit, so suddenly we could not travel. Quickly the team adapted and we switched all our activities into virtual. So this way we managed to train physicians in Syria, in Middle East, in India, and remotely, completely remotely, and they are competent. They can do point-of-care ultrasounds.
In spite of the challenges of the past few years, we've had a number of individuals in our department who are willing to step into leadership roles.
Something that we're working on right now is equipping our leaders with a trauma-informed approach to be able to help lead during tough times.
We held a 2-day Physician Leadership Institute workshop on trauma-informed leadership, making us one of the only sites in Alberta and probably Canada where leadership across the site is trained in trauma-informed principles. We're working hard to try to address what we can to improve wellness and satisfaction in the Department of Pediatrics.
Wellness of the department, wellness of our employees and our physicians, and trying to weave that in, even in the challenging times.
We've also looked at ways to appreciate and to recognize the good work people do across our department, even outside the walls of our hospital. We've also worked at addressing issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion in our department. And what I've seen over the past few years is a readiness and an enthusiasm to ask some difficult questions that we weren't able to ask before. I'm proud of the fact that we could take an honest look at that and do deep dives into breaking down some of the barriers, some of the implicit bias that have just been inherent in our system, and what we can do to start to address this in a more holistic, family-centered, patient-centered approach. I see an evolution towards a brighter future ahead, one where all different communities and all different people can receive the best care that they can. I'm so proud of the fact that my colleagues are open to these discussions and in fact are initiating some of these discussions, not just here within our hospital or within our department, but also at the university level, provincially, nationally, and even internationally.
I just want to close with a personal thank you to all the members of the Department of Pediatrics for your excellence in clinical care, scholarly work, and education, and your ongoing commitment to collaboration, to patients and families, and to supporting each other.
There is nowhere like pediatrics.